Hello and welcome back to the Kendal Mountain YouTube channel. This month we're focusing on running, and we managed to snag an interview with the amazing Andrew Berry straight on the back of his victory at the Lakeland 100. Even better, I managed to grab Clive out of the office as well as our resident running expert to conduct the interview. I hope you enjoy.
Welcome, I'm Clive Allen, Kendal Mountain Festival Director, and I'm here with Andy Berry. We're in the Innovate store, the Forge in Staveley in the Lake District, and we're here just to talk through a few things. Andy, welcome to the Forge.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Now, you're a man of the moment at the moment. You're going to have to get used to this, I think. A couple of big performances this year. Firstly, winning the Lakeland 100, and we'll go into that a little, but in my eyes, kind of the main thing for me that you've done this year was back in May when you took the 24-hour record for the Lakeland Peaks.
And yeah, that's definitely where my heart is as well. I mean, I had such a great time at Lakeland, but definitely for me the 24-hour was what 2 years of work was building towards.
So I'm quite interested to hear, given how long you've been running on the fells, and at what point did you think you could go for this kind of thing?
So I started on the fells in the back end of 2015, got introduced to Durham Fell Runners, got introduced to the Bob Graham Round in the October.
Were you a runner before that?
I called it my Ricky Hatton phase, so I'd get fat and then I'd start running in order to lose the fat and then like get fat again. And so on and off, but in the grand scheme of things, nothing spectacular. I managed like a 1.5 hour half marathon PB, kind of
sure.
A 3:43 marathon, like nothing setting the world alight.
So
not
there's
terrible,
something that just switched things with the fells then going.
Yeah, so my mum used to bring us to the Lake District camping when we were kids, me and my sister, and we would go hiking. We did like the coast to coast, and we did all kind of different adventures with my mum when we were little. And I think when I combined running with moving through the mountains, it was definitely, I did Fairfield Horseshoe as my first fell race, came back down after that. Wow. And I was absolutely, it was like right. It was like a shot of something illegal in my arm, and I was off and away.
So the Bob Graham was fairly soon on your radar, so to speak.
Yes, got introduced to it in the October and said to myself, yep, next summer, that's me. So January the 1st came round, and that's all of it. 6 months of dedicated building up to that. And
so just tell us what you do and where you live.
So I live in County Durham, and at the minute, I've just started splitting my time between coaching and plumbing, but up until this summer, or up until this April, I was a full-time plumber. So how on earth do you, given that you're not actually in the lakes itself and you've got a pretty full-time busy job there, how did you manage to train? So I'm self-employed for a start, which gives me a lot of flexibility, especially around weekends. I split my time, week on, week off, not week on, week off, but week with my son, so I'm tied to Durham. And
family as well then?
Yeah, so I've got so he's just turned 12.
Wow.
But yeah, no, he's mint, like, but working it around that. So treadmill in the utility room.
Right.
I would do, say, a couple of treadmill sessions a week, and then a couple of runs with the dogs outside, and then we would do bike rides or things where I would run alongside him on a mountain bike around Hampstead Forest, which is quite close to us. Yeah. We'd come over in the van to the Lake District on a weekend. I would put 7 litres of water in my backpack, and we'd go hiking for the day, just being creative, really. Yeah, and just working with what you've got is absolutely vital, and not telling yourself that that's what's going to limit you. Yeah. It's not, living in Durham isn't going to limit me with what I do. Yep. It's going to, sure, would it help if I lived in the Alps at, or lived in Boulder at 1,600 metres, or, yeah, sure, it would be great, but that's not what I've got. What I've got is my house in Durham. And then every other weekend we'd be over the lakes, so I can go for get my long fell time in, because at the end of the day, there is another side where you just can't replicate even the damage to the ankles, the feet, the knees, the hips,
Yep.
the movement of it,
Yep.
the flow of it, like
Yeah.
it's very much a feeling, as you know yourself, as having done the Bob Graham, as we were chatting about before.
We're not talking about times, but yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, there's only 3 times that matter: the female record, the male record, and the 24 hours. That's all that really matters. But yeah, just getting that feeling in that time. Our partner's a runner, so we'd go out and do that.
So you were kind of building up. You did the Tranter Round. You got the fastest time for the Tranter Round. That was what, 3 or 4 years ago, was it? Something like that?
Tranter's was just January.
Just January this year. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So winter Tranter's round was
Right.
just in January. For me, I'll be honest, the biggest moment was I'd set the Steve Parr Round record in 2021.
Yep.
And coming out the back of that, it was okay. That was fast.
Yep.
Probably not as fast as it could go, but it was pretty fast. Where's my limit? And how do I go about trying to push my limit and just stopping being scared of failing at big stuff? Like I'd looked at the 24-hour round for somebody else 2 years earlier in 2019. I'd gone to wreck your leg for somebody who was thinking about having a go. It didn't end up, and it just scared me. Like, it was huge.
Yeah.
And you know, it was the Northern Fells leg that I did. It's a 20-mile leg, and I looked at the time you have to do it in, and it just blew my mind. But then there's still that little part of you, same way as, you know, you do one leg of the Bob Graham and you're like, how do people put 5 legs of this together? Like, unbelievable. There's still a little part of me that goes, oh, but maybe.
Yeah.
And as soon as I've got that but maybe, then after that it's hard work, lots and lots of hard work, and then let's find out.
So had you a trainer and training program at that point or not?
Yeah, so I had a coach in Newcastle, and she was brilliant. I still use, so Margarita, I still use her for all of my strength and conditioning. She's brilliant. I just wanted a tiny bit more specificity. That's a difficult word for me. So that's when I started working with Kim Collison for my running.
Yep, interesting. So let's think about the Lakeland 100 then. Talk me through how that went, because I know it's quite dramatic at the end.
Yeah, so for me it was definitely a race to run my own race. I knew I was fit still. I'd done the 24-hour and then managed to not lose anything of that. So I had a confidence in the fact that my legs could move pretty well for 100 miles over that terrain. So I started out what looks really hard, but that was my plan. It was fine. I knew I could keep that going for about 20. I was hoping no longer than 21 hours.
And where were you positioned at that point?
So I was sitting in 3rd, 4th.
Right, okay.
And the front 2 had just disappeared, and I was like, that's fine. I knew Mark Derbyshire's course record splits for the first half, and his second half, by the way, is just something else entirely from Dale Main. Like, it's just looking at the times afterwards blows my mind. But I had them for the first half, and I was running about 10 minutes ahead of that, and the front guys must have been running 15, 20, 25 at one point, maybe ahead of that. So I knew that they were either going to have the day of their lives, and I was like, good luck to them, because that would be what a run that would be to witness. Or maybe they'll hit a point where they start to struggle a little bit. So first saw Jarlath before he re-overtook me, coming into Black Sail, and then I saw Ryan Smith at Blencathra Centre.
So you were 2nd or 3rd at this point?
So after I saw Ryan at Blencathra, I was into the lead onto the old coach road, and then the steam train came past, and Jarlath just kind of absolutely woof. I looked at my watch and I thought, I'm not matching that pace. It was an incredible bit of running to watch, and he disappeared off into the distance. I think he must have made up probably 15-20 minutes on me by the time I hit Dale Main. But my checkpoint speed is something that I work on beforehand, so I can make up a lot of time through checkpoints, making sure that I take all my fuel with me, basically.
And then the final section?
So then the final section,
What happened there?
So second half of the race, I kind of had a bit of a rough patch, as you always do in ultras, just kind of keep your head level. And then managed to find myself into second, going over to Kentmere, And it's funny, I'd said before the race, what I don't want is a foot race with Jarlath up Langdale, because I knew that he was just going to absolutely blitz us. So I set off from Ambleside in decent spirits and just thought, just do your best. Just work as hard as you can work up this valley, because it's going to be a slog. And it was warm by that point and slogged up there. And then I got told as I crossed over towards Tilberthwaite that he had a 20-minute lead, and I kind of thought, okay, well, that's that. I'm not going to get 20 minutes in 6 miles. And then as I climbed out of Tilberthwaite, I thought I saw a runner on the horizon, and I was like, oh, it's not him, because it wasn't his right colour clothes or right body shape or anything. I was like, oh, just pretend it is, and then the third place is going to struggle to catch it. So I did that, and as I came over the lip of the hill, I just saw him there talking to two hikers. So I was like, okay, well, if he's injured, he's going to get the help he requires. It's just pedal to the metal time, because I fully expected him to chase, and just pointed myself downhill, hit the road, and just started psyching myself out.
What was he doing? What had happened?
So he'd basically had just the most massive bonk in the world.
Really? Right, okay.
He'd completely zeroed out of energy.
So the plan worked.
So, I mean, yeah, there's a part of me that feels a bit bad, I guess, because, you know, a mile and a half, 2 miles, but that's ultra running.
Yeah,
it's
and cycling or whatever.
It's 105 miles long, and that's what you've got to race for. So hit the road and just started telling myself you want this more than him, and absolutely dug out everything out of myself. That
road sections,
everything out of myself. Nearly took a wrong turn in Coniston. Had this marshal jump in front of me and said, "No, it's that way," because I was lost.
Brilliant.
And came in for the win. Needed somebody to tell me, because having been awake for 20 hours, I was kind of like,
is this real?
Was that Jarlath up there? And they're like, yeah, you've won. And I was like, fantastic. Oh, that's all right then.
So quickly moving on to the 24-hour, which is, just to explain to people, this is as many Lakeland summits as you can reach within a 24-hour period, and it's been extended over the years. I think it's generally agreed that you're probably unlikely to add another summit as things stand, but it's the time, isn't it, now?
I think that one more top is now, so everybody kind of adds something.
Yeah.
And what I've taken out of it, I've created the time now to do Haycock. Haycock's
you think there. It's doable?
Right. Haycock's there to
right.
be done. So there's 38 minutes on the clock. That's enough to put in Haycock.
Right.
So it's there.
Yeah.
It just needs ran.
And the stats are how much ascent?
So I think
distance?
it was. I cross over here, so it's 94 miles with about 12,500 meters of climbing it.
Yeah.
36,000 feet.
You're competing against yourself. It's all down to the support and pacing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so support was absolutely key, getting the right people in who both are fast enough at the start and know me well enough and how to push the right buttons in the middle and the end.
And try and make it fun.
Well, it's always got to be fun, otherwise what's the point? You know, I don't run for anything else.
Yeah. So, how did it go? I mean, were the points where you thought this isn't on, and other points when you thought, right, this is definitely on?
So yeah, absolutely. So the first leg was just a dream. It's the nicest thing I could say about it was that the lads were perfect. So I had, Mark Lamb and Harry Bolton there, experienced fast fell runners.
Yep.
They were just perfect. And then the second leg, I had Steve Hebblethwaite and Matt Atkinson again, super fast, super experienced. And there was one part on that leg in the Northern Fells, getting back up onto Bannerdale Crags, where I'd never hit Kim's split. Still didn't hit it on the day, but I was the closest I'd ever been.
Wow.
And at that point I was like, okay, that's the first tick, you're still in the game. And that's what I was saying to myself at the end of every leg. Done a leg, still in the game. Done a leg, still in the game.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of went relatively smoothly. I was losing time, but I was losing less and less and less and less time. So I'd started in a different place. I started in Newlands Hawes rather than in Braithwaite.
Yeah.
So I'd put a load of time into it, because obviously that was Kim's last leg, super tired legs. And then he was eating into my lead all the way through. And it got to Wasdale, and it started to feel really hopeless. Like, I knew I'd still losing time. And so I'd sent Damien Hall down to the bottom, where I knew Kim was waiting to pace me in the next leg, and my partner Jess was there. Two people I trust most of my running together. So I just said, talk to them, get them to decide. If I can still do this, just get her to tell me. If she tells me I can do it, I'll just do it. And just ran in, she just looked us dead in the eye and said, you can do it, but you've got to go now. And I was just put up a tiny little bit of a fight, and then on we went and cracked on. About halfway up Barrow, I was having a right moan and being a right grumpy. Oh man, I'm embarrassed by myself. But anyway, I realised quite quickly, after about like a few minutes, 5 minutes maybe, I think 5 minutes, if we can talk to Kim, Damo and Steve, and they'll probably say it was probably more like 20 minutes. And I just thought, this isn't you. This isn't what you're doing it for. You know, you love being in the hills. It's a perfect day. It's cooling down. So I was like, right, enough of this. Went over the stream that runs up Barrow, just on the bob climb.
Yep, I know.
And just washed myself down, washed my face, water over the back of the neck, clean my arms off, and just went, right, if you're gonna have this be your end, just make it such an end that it gets like remembered. So if I was gonna miss it, I wanted to miss it by as little as possible. And so we went again with a new voom, got to the top of Barrow, got to start running, and I was like, oh, actually, there's life in these legs.
Amazing. Yeah.
And by the time we got to Red Pike, it was too late to add in Haycock for me. We had a cut off of 7:15. It was about 7:15 at that point, so for us I was way out. And then Resurrection Andy turned up. I came back from the dead and started running really, really pretty fast, really.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, congratulations. And I genuinely hope that you hold that record for as long as possible. Who knows what's going to come up, but it's...
I mean, the way I see it, I've got nothing else to lose. I might as well go back and try 79 at some point.
You think?
Yeah. Well, I already hold it, so I can go absolutely all in. I could come up with the craziest plan ever. I could start in Wasdale and get Haycock in and then see if I can survive for the rest of the day. Or I could come up with whatever I want, because even more than normal, there is no such thing as failure. Really.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think that's about all the time that we've got, Andy. I mean, thanks very much for being with us. Just to say that Andy's joining us at Kendal Mountain Festival later this year in November, so you can catch him then for more on this topic. Until then, thanks very much, Andy.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's been a blast.
Cheers, mate.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. If you want to see more content like this, then make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, as it allows us to make more content, as well as checking out the Kendal Mountain Player, where we have over 400 different films and collections to choose from. Additionally, Andy is actually going to be playing host at this year's Kendal Mountain Festival and our 2023 running session. If you want to get tickets to this, check them out in the link in the description below.